Ladies and gentlemen, we all get the same 24 hours. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, or what goals you're chasing. The most successful people in the world, the ones we admire, the ones who seem almost superhuman, they don't get 25 hours. They don't get an extra morning or an extra night. They simply use their 24 hours differently. See, the question is not, how do I get more time? The real question is, how do I use the time I already have with intention? Because success is not the result of having more hours. Success is the result of honoring the hours you already have. Most people try to manage their time by creating long to-do lists, downloading productivity apps, and squeezing tasks into every available minute. But time management doesn't start with tools. It doesn't start with schedules. It starts with purpose. If you don't understand why your day matters, no system will save you. The truth is simple. People don't become successful because they have perfectly organized calendars. They become successful because every minute they invest is rooted in meaning. When you start your day with purpose, something powerful happens. Your decisions become clearer. Your distractions lose their grip. Your actions become intentional rather than reactive. Think about it. When you know why something matters, you're naturally drawn to it. You don't need to force discipline. You don't need to push yourself. Purpose pulls you forward. Most of us wake up with goals, finish a project, study, go to work, complete errands. But goals alone are not enough. Goals tell you what to do. Purpose tells you why it matters. Without purpose, goals become burdens. With purpose, they become expressions of who you are and what you believe, and that changes everything. Imagine waking up one morning with no sense of direction. You start your day, you move through tasks, you answer messages, you work, you eat, you sleep. It's a day, just a day, but now imagine waking up with a clear sense of why you do what you do. Suddenly, the same tasks feel different. The same hours feel different. You move with intention, not obligation. You feel connected, not just busy. You feel alive because your actions align with your values. The people who seem to get more done are not superhuman. They simply know what matters to them. They spend less time questioning their choices and more time acting on them. They eliminate what doesn't serve their purpose, and they pour their energy into what does. They are not driven by pressure. They are driven by meaning. And meaning is a far more powerful fuel than motivation. When you understand your why, you stop chasing every opportunity that appears. Instead, you choose the ones that fit your mission. You stop reacting to your environment and start shaping it. You stop allowing your circumstances to dictate your life and start using your life to shape your circumstances. This is what great leaders do. This is what fulfilled people do. They don't waste time trying to be everything for everyone. They choose to be something meaningful for someone, but finding your why doesn't happen by accident. You have to ask yourself the hard questions. Why am I doing this work? Why do I want this dream? Why does this relationship, this goal, this commitment matter to me? Most people avoid these questions because they require honesty. They require vulnerability. They require the courage to admit what you truly want and what you no longer need. But once you're willing to go there, clarity begins to form, and with clarity comes strength. Purpose is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's about waking up each day and reminding yourself of what matters most so you can live in alignment with it. Some days you'll get it right, some days you won't, and that's okay. What matters is that you keep returning to your why, because it's your anchor. It keeps you grounded when life gets chaotic. It keeps you focused when everything else tries to pull you away. When you manage your time without purpose, your days feel long and empty. When you manage your time with purpose, your days feel meaningful, even when they're challenging. Purpose turns routine into contribution. It turns effort into progress. It turns 24 ordinary hours into something extraordinary. Success isn't about having more time. It's about filling the time you have with meaning. It's about waking up each day with a sense of direction. It's about letting your purpose guide your priorities, your choices, and your energy. Because when you start with why, your time doesn't just pass. Your time builds something, something real, something lasting. Something that reflects the best version of who you are and who you're becoming. Most people don't realize how much power the first moments of their day hold. They rush into the morning the same way they rush into everything else half awake, caught in the noise of notifications, reacting to messages before they even remember what they truly want. And then they wonder why the rest of the day feels scattered, rushed, unfocused. The truth is, the morning is not just the beginning of your day. It is the foundation on which the entire day rests. When the foundation is weak, the structure above it wobbles. When the foundation is strong, everything built on top stands with clarity and purpose. The way you start your morning is a declaration of how you intend to show up for life. If the first thing you do is grab your phone and absorb the world's demands, then you've already surrendered control of your day. You've handed your attention, your energy, and your emotional state to whatever appears on that screen. Before you even get out of bed, you've allowed the outside world to set your tone. But people who live with intention, people who lead, who create, who inspire begin their day differently. They don't start by reacting, they start by choosing. The morning is a sacred space, a quiet moment before the world wakes up and begins to pull you in every direction. It's the one time of the day where you can hear your own thoughts without interruption. It's the time when your mind is most open, most receptive, and most honest. That silence is not empty. It is full of potential, and how you use that potential determines everything that comes after it. The greatest leaders don't wake up and check social media. They don't start by diving into their inbox or responding to the world's expectations. They start by grounding themselves. Some reflect, some read, some plan, some meditate, some simply sit in silence and breathe. The method doesn't matter, the intention does. The goal is to begin with clarity, not chaos, with purpose, not pressure. When you start your morning with intentionality, you train your brain to operate from a place of focus. You remind yourself that your life is driven by your mission, not by noise. You enter the day with a direction, rather than hoping to find it somewhere between breakfast and bedtime. People often say they don't have time for a morning ritual, but in reality, they don't have time not to have one, because the few minutes you invest in your morning give you back hours of effectiveness throughout the day. Think about the difference between walking into a room calm and prepared versus rushing and stressed and scattered. One version of you leads, the other version of you survives. Most people live their entire day in survival mode because they start it in survival mode. And the cycle repeats itself. The morning also creates momentum. When you begin your day with one intentional action, whether it's writing, planning, exercising, or simply sitting in silence, you create a sense of progress before the world even begins to demand anything from you. That feeling of progress, even in small doses, is incredibly powerful. Human beings thrive on momentum. It fuels confidence, clarity, and creativity. And when your first action of the day aligns with your purpose, everything else becomes easier. Even your mood is shaped in those early minutes. A distracted morning creates a distracted mind. A chaotic morning creates a chaotic energy. But a grounded morning creates a grounded spirit, and that spirit influences every interaction you have, every decision you make, every challenge you face. What most people overlook is that the morning is not about productivity, it's about identity. It's about reminding yourself of who you want to be before the world pressures you into being something else. It's about claiming ownership of your day before circumstances attempt to claim it for you. It's about choosing to lead your time instead of following your impulses. And the beauty is, you don't need an elaborate routine. You don't need to wake up at 5 a.m. or follow a strict set of rules. What you need is presence, choice, intention. 10 minutes spent in alignment is worth more than an hour spent reacting. When you choose to own your morning, you reclaim your power. You show up to the world as someone who leads with clarity rather than noise. You send a message to yourself. I decide how my day begins. I decide how I show up. I decide what matters. Because success doesn't start at noon. Success starts the moment you open your eyes, and when you give your morning meaning, the day follows your lead. We often think the greatest threat to our productivity is a lack of time, but that has never been true. The real threat is a lack of focus. Time can be found, borrowed, reorganized, or even wasted without noticing. But focus is different. Focus is fragile. It can be broken by a notification, a thought, a worry, a sound. And once it breaks, it takes far longer to rebuild than the moment it took to lose it. This is why the most successful people guard their focus with the same seriousness a leader guards a mission. They know that a single focused hour can create more impact than an entire day spent multitasking. We live in a world designed to steal our attention. Our devices don't just interrupt us, they compete for us. Every app, every notification, every headline is crafted to pull us away from what truly matters. And most people don't realize how much this costs them. The danger isn't just the momentary distraction. It's the shift in momentum. Once we drift away from meaningful work, we often don't return with the same clarity or energy. It's like stepping away from a deep conversation. You can come back, but the flow is never the same. Focus is not just about eliminating distractions. It's about honoring your time and energy. It's about understanding that your attention is the gateway to your potential. Everything meaningful you will ever create, build, or achieve requires the ability to stay with something long enough for it to grow. Focus is the soil where mastery is planted. It's the environment where ideas form, where thoughts deepen, where creativity finds space to unfold. Most people never reach their greatest potential not because they lack skill, but because they lack the ability to stay with something long enough to let the skill blossom. They jump from task to task, idea to idea, notification to notification. They confuse movement with progress. But movement is cheap, progress demands depth. When you protect your focus, you're not just saying no to distractions, you're saying yes to meaning. You're choosing to give your best self to the work that defines you, not to the noise that surrounds you. You're choosing presence over impulse, you're choosing intention over reaction, and most importantly, you're choosing to lead your time rather than letting your time lead you. There is a reason the most impactful thinkers, innovators, and leaders carve out sacred blocks of uninterrupted time. They understand that deep work, the kind of work that shapes lives and shifts industries, cannot happen in the cracks between interruptions. It requires immersion, it requires mental stillness, it requires space, but protecting your focus is not about rigid discipline. It's about respect, respect for your goals, respect for your potential, respect for your mission. You don't need to eliminate every distraction forever. That's impossible. What you need is to create intentional environments where your mind can breathe. This might mean turning off notifications. It might mean stepping away from the noise. It might mean closing the door, setting a timer, or simply deciding that for the next hour the world can wait. Focus also requires boundaries, not just with technology, but with people. Not every request deserves your immediate attention. Not every message needs a quick response. Not every problem is yours to solve. When you allow others to pull your attention in every direction, you sacrifice the very thing that allows you to contribute meaningfully. And here's the truth most people overlook: your focus reflects your values. If you constantly allow distractions to win, it's a sign that your priorities are unclear. But when you begin to protect your attention, you begin to shape your identity. You become someone who values depth, purpose, and meaningful contribution. The more you practice this, the stronger it becomes. Focus is a muscle. The more you train it, the more powerful it grows. In the end, managing your time is useful, but managing your attention is transformational. Your attention is your most precious currency. Spend it well, and your life becomes rich with progress, clarity, and purpose. Spend it poorly, and no amount of time will ever feel like enough. When you learn to guard your focus, you're not just improving your day, you're elevating your life. Most people believe that success comes from saying yes to opportunities, yes to responsibilities, yes to anything that might move them forward. But the truth is far more uncomfortable. Real growth often comes from the courage to say no, not because you're rejecting the world, but because you're choosing to honor what matters most. Every time you say yes to something unimportant, you are unintentionally saying no to something deeply meaningful. And most people don't realize the cost until they look back and wonder where their time, energy, and direction went. We live in a culture that glorifies busyness. Being busy has become a badge of honor, a sign that we're valuable, needed, important. But busyness is not a measure of significance. It is often a symptom of misplaced priorities. People say yes out of guilt, out of fear, out of pressure, or simply out of habit. They say yes because they don't want to disappoint others. They say yes because they think more activity equals more progress. They say yes because they have never paused long enough to ask themselves what truly deserves their time. But leaders, real leaders, understand that every yes must be earned. They don't say yes simply because they can. They say yes because it aligns with their mission, their values, and their purpose. They recognize that time is finite, energy is limited, and attention is fragile. And if they don't protect these resources, no one else will. Saying no is not an act of rejection, it is an act of responsibility. Think of your life like a garden. You may want to plant every seed, water every plant, grow every flower. But if you try to nurture everything, nothing thrives. Some plants demand too much. Some plants choke out others. Some look attractive but bear no fruit. Your time works the same way. If you say yes to everything, you create a life that is full but not fruitful. A life that is busy but not meaningful. A life where your purpose is buried under obligations that don't belong to you. The power of saying no lies in the clarity of what you're protecting. When you have a clear sense of your direction, you naturally begin to filter opportunities instead of absorbing them. You begin to distinguish between what is essential and what is merely appealing. You begin to see that not every request is yours to fulfill, not every invitation is yours to accept, and not every opportunity is yours to pursue. Meaningful growth is not about accumulation, it's about focus. But saying no is difficult because it requires vulnerability. It feels like you are letting people down. It feels like you are closing doors. It feels like you might miss out. And yet, the people who achieve the deepest success are the ones who understand this truth. Every no creates space for a better yes. A yes that aligns with your mission. A yes that reflects your values 1%. Saying no also teaches others how to respect your time. When you say yes to everything, people assume your time is unlimited. They assume your energy is accessible. They assume you can always make room. But when you set boundaries kindly, clearly, consistently, you teach others that your time has value. You teach them that your purpose matters, and ironically, this increases their respect for you, not their disappointment. There is also a deeper emotional element. When you say no to the wrong things, you say yes to yourself. You say yes to your growth, your rest, your relationships, your dreams. You create space to breathe, to think, to be. You give yourself the room needed to create something meaningful instead of simply managing the noise around you. You begin to live intentionally rather than reactively. People often believe that saying no will make their life smaller. In reality, it makes your life sharper. It turns scattered effort into focused progress. It turns overwhelm into clarity. It turns exhaustion into momentum. And the moment you begin to say no with purpose, you feel a shift. You feel lighter, clearer, more grounded. You realize that your life is no longer shaped by the expectations of others, but by the intention within you. The world will always offer you more than you can handle, more tasks, more invitations, more obligations, more demands, but you have the power to choose, and the quality of your life, your success, your peace, your fulfillment depends on that choice. Saying no is not a limitation. It is leadership. It is direction. It is self-respect. Because in the end, the greatest yes you will ever say is to the life you truly want to build. Most people measure their day by the number of hours they worked, as if hours alone determine success. But hours don't create impact, energy does. You can sit at a desk for 8 straight hours and accomplish nothing meaningful, or you can show up fully present for 1 powerful hour and move your entire life forward. We've been conditioned to believe that productivity is about squeezing as much as we can into our schedules, but the truth is far simpler. It's not how much time you have, it's how much of you shows up in the time you have. Human beings are not machines. We don't operate in a steady, predictable rhythm. We fluctuate, our minds expand and contract, our bodies rise and crash, our creativity comes in waves. Yet we expect ourselves to perform the same way at all times of the day, and then we blame ourselves when we fall short. But it's not a lack of discipline. It's a lack of alignment. Great leaders don't push themselves to be productive at every moment. They work with their energy, not against it. There is a certain honesty required to recognize when you are at your best. Some people are sharp in the morning, some come alive in the afternoon, some do their best thinking at night. What matters is not following a trend or copying someone else's routine. What matters is paying attention to your natural rhythm and aligning your most important tasks with that rhythm. When your energy is high, that's when you tackle the work that requires courage, creativity, or deep thinking. When your energy dips, that's when you do the tasks that are simpler, lighter, or more mechanical. This isn't laziness, it's strategy. The problem is that most people force themselves to perform important work when they are depleted. They push through fatigue, trying to will themselves into focus, and then wonder why everything feels harder than it should. It's like trying to run a marathon with empty lungs. You can push, but you can't perform. And when you spend your best energy on the wrong things, checking emails, scrolling your phone, doing tasks that drain rather than elevate, you rob your dreams of the strength they deserve. Managing energy is also about recognizing what replenishes you and what exhausts you. Some activities give you fuel, meaningful work, inspiring conversations, exercise, reflection, rest. Others drain you. Pointless meetings, constant multitasking, toxic environments, noise, chaos. When you become aware of this, you begin to design your day in a way that sustains you instead of depleting you. You place energizing moments intentionally throughout the day so you never reach the point of burnout. You become proactive instead of reactive. Think about the people who seem endlessly productive without looking stressed. They aren't working nonstop. They are working in alignment. They understand that their body is not an obstacle to productivity. It is a partner. They listen to it, they respect it, they recharge it. They move through the day with the understanding that rest is not a reward at the end. It is a reset woven into the process. When you manage energy rather than hours, you become more present and more impactful. You stop rushing. You stop forcing. You stop dragging yourself through the day. Instead, you begin to flow with your own internal rhythm. You create work that reflects clarity, depth, and intention rather than fatigue and pressure. The quality of your output becomes richer, and your experience of life becomes lighter. But there is something more important than just performance. Managing your energy is also an act of self-respect. It means caring enough about your goals to give them the best of you. It means caring enough about yourself to avoid burnout. It means understanding that your future depends not on how hard you push, but on how well you sustain yourself. Life is not a sprint. It's not even a marathon. It's a series of chapters, each requiring a different version of you. Preserving your energy ensures you can meet each chapter with strength and intention. When you begin to shape your day around your energy, everything changes. You feel less overwhelmed and more capable. You feel less scattered and more focused. You feel less exhausted and more alive. You begin accomplishing more not by doing more, but by showing up with a fuller version of yourself. And when you consistently bring your best energy to the work that matters most, success stops feeling like a struggle. It begins to feel like a natural outcome, because in the end, the hours you have are fixed. But the energy you bring to those hours is where your power truly lies. We live in a world that celebrates the grind, glorifies exhaustion, and praises the person who works the latest and sleeps the least. Somewhere along the way, we were taught that rest is a luxury, that slowing down is a sign of weakness, and that pushing through fatigue is what strong people do. But the truth is far more human, far more honest. Rest is not the opposite of effort. Rest is what makes effort possible. Without it, your body breaks, your mind dulls, and your sense of purpose fades into noise. The people who accomplish great things are not the ones who run themselves into the ground. They're the ones who understand the strategic power of renewal. Think of a blade. No matter how sharp it once was, constant use wears it down. Eventually, it becomes dull. At that point, pushing harder doesn't make it cut better. It just damages the blade. A wise craftsman stops, sharpens it, and then continues. Rest is your sharpening. It is the thing that keeps you clear, capable, and effective. Most people treat rest like something optional, something they'll do once things calm down. But things rarely calm down. Life doesn't get less demanding. Work doesn't lighten magically. Responsibilities don't shrink. If you wait until you're finished to rest, you will never rest at all. And the irony is that the very thing people sacrifice, sleep, breaks time to breathe. This is the thing that would make their work better, faster, and more meaningful. When you're tired, the first thing that disappears is your clarity. You make decisions based on pressure instead of purpose. You react instead of respond. You lose sight of what matters. You might still be moving, but the movement lacks intention. You might still be working, but the work lacks depth. A rested mind sees possibility. A tired mind sees obstacles. Rest doesn't just restore your energy. It restores your perspective. It resets your emotional state. It reconnects you to your sense of why. When you step away from the noise, you make room for ideas to breathe. Creativity rarely appears in chaos. It appears in stillness. Solutions don't come from exhaustion, they come from space. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in history didn't happen during long hours of work, but during moments of pause, reflection, or simply being away from the task altogether. There's a reason leaders encourage breaks, vacations, sleep, and recovery. It's not because they want their teams to be less productive. It's because they understand that performance comes from capacity, not pressure. A burned-out person can't innovate. A drained mind can't inspire. A fatigued soul can't lead. Rest is not something that takes you away from success. It's something that brings you toward it. Yet rest also requires courage. It means admitting you are human. It means stepping away even when the world says keep going. It means trusting that pausing doesn't make you fall behind. It means understanding that the goal is not to prove your endurance, but to protect your ability to contribute meaningfully. There is a deep emotional component to this as well. When you rest, you reconnect with yourself. You reconnect with the people who matter. You create space for gratitude, reflection, and emotional grounding. You give yourself permission to be more than your output. And when you return to your work, you return with presence instead of pressure, with creativity instead of exhaustion, with strength instead of strain. Rest is not laziness. Rest is leadership. It shows that you know how to sustain your mission. It shows that you value your health, your clarity, your relationships, and your long-term impact. It shows that you understand the difference between working hard and working smart. People often fear that rest will slow them down. In reality, rest is what speeds you up. It fuels your ability to think deeply, act decisively, and move with intention. It sharpens your instincts and strengthens your resilience. It gives you the capacity to face challenges with a clear mind and an open heart. When you integrate rest into your life, not as a rare escape, but as a regular rhythm, you become steadier, wiser, and more capable. Your days feel less chaotic, your work feels less heavy, your purpose feels clearer, and you discover that success is not achieved by constant motion, but by sustainable momentum. Because in the end, the goal isn't to see how much you can endure, the goal is to see how far you can go, not through exhaustion, but through renewal. You don't need more hours. You don't need more time. You need more intention. Use your 24 hours with purpose. Honor them, protect them, shape them. Because when you learn to manage your day with clarity, discipline, and heart, your days turn into progress, your progress turns into momentum, and your momentum turns into a life of impact. Thank you.